I was never the dramatic one in the family. That title belonged to my younger sister, Candace. From the time we were kids, she had this flair, a magnetic pull that turned every room into her stage. I was always the quiet one in the background. The helper. The steady hand. The one who knew how much milk we had left. The one who made sure Mom's birthday card got mailed. The one who paid attention. So, it didn't surprise me when Candace got engaged to a guy after just 6 months of dating, and the entire house exploded with excitement. My parents cried. Candace cried. Her fiancé, Chase, stood awkwardly beside her while she showed off her ring for the 100th time. What surprised me was how much they expected me to give up for her. I was 28, and I'd spent the last 6 years working double shifts at the same hospital that laid me off during the pandemic, only to call me back months later as if I was furniture they misplaced. I'd saved almost everything I could, cutting back on takeout, staying in a shoebox of an apartment with water-stained ceilings, saying no to trips my coworkers invited me on. All because I had a dream. A bakery. Not just any bakery. Soulrise. I had it all planned. The color palette, the logo, the curated menu of soft crumble-top muffins, Earl Grey cake with honey glaze, and sourdough loaves that I'd learned from my grandmother. I had been saving for the lease deposit and equipment costs, and I was just 3 months away from signing, until I wasn't. It was a rainy Thursday when I found out. Mom had left her iPad at my place after a Sunday dinner, and she texted me to say she needed me to send a document that was saved on her notes app. I opened it, scrolled through, and saw the note titled, Candace's Wedding Budget, Private. I shouldn't have clicked. I did anyway, and my stomach dropped. $8,000. Venue, $3,600. Catering, deposit, $2,200. Dress, $1,800. Decorations, $4,000. Taken from Leah savings. Soulrise. I blinked. That couldn't be right. I opened my banking app. $4,000 missing. Gone. I felt this sudden stillness crawl over my entire body. Like time had paused. Like the betrayal hadn't sunk in because my brain refused to believe it yet. I double-checked everything. The transaction, the timestamp, the name of the joint savings account I had briefly opened with my mother years ago when she promised she'd help me track interest rates. I never closed it. I never thought I'd need to. Apparently, she did. That night, I drove to my parents' house. Not out of rage, out of disbelief. Out of some desperate hope that there was a mistake. That someone else accessed the account. That it was a mix-up. Candace was there, sitting on the couch in her sweats with wet nails and bridal magazines scattered around like she owned the place. Mom was at the kitchen island, sipping wine, looking tired, but content. I didn't even sit down. I saw the wedding budget, I said. Mom froze. Candace didn't. Oh my God, you saw it? She said, laughing. I told her to hide that note. My eyes shifted. You took $4,000 from my savings. It's not like that, Mom said quickly. We just borrowed it, Leah. It's temporary. No one asked me. Well, we couldn't. You've been so stressed lately, and the venue needed the deposit by last week. We had no choice. There's always a choice, I said quietly. You chose her wedding over my business. You knew what that money was for. Candace shrugged. It's just a bakery. You can start at any time. I stared at her like she'd slapped me. Just a bakery? You always act like some martyr, Candace snapped. Like you're the only one sacrificing anything. This is my once-in-a-lifetime moment, Leah. I need it to be perfect. I turned to Mom. She didn't say anything, just looked down at her glass. And in that silence, something in me hardened, like wet concrete that finally settled into place. I left. No screaming, no drama, no threats, just a plan. A quiet, slow plan. Would you like me to continue with part 2? Where Leah begins subtly setting boundaries and they realize she's not playing along anymore? Absolutely. Here's part 2 of the ongoing story. They used my savings to fund her wedding, so I didn't show up. The emotional quiet tension continues to build as Leah begins to remove herself, piece by piece, from the role they always expected her to play. I didn't speak to them for 3 weeks. Not because I was angry, though I was, but because I knew if I talked too soon, I'd cave. I'd do what I always did: rationalize, make excuses, forgive without change. And I was tired of being the one who swallowed her own pain just to keep the family peace. In that time, I stopped sending meal prep over to Mom on Mondays. I didn't ask Candace about her bridal dress fitting. I didn't respond to the group texts about centerpieces or RSVP tracking spreadsheets. I knew they noticed, but they didn't bring it up, because as long as I stayed quiet, they assumed I was just being moody. What they didn't realize was, this was me, waking up. One morning, I checked my Soulrise account again, the one I kept separate from everything else. Balance, $11,142.19 before the $4,000 theft. I was just past $15K, my target goal. That money was more than numbers to me. It represented 6 birthdays I'd worked through, the stained uniforms I refused to replace, and the lonely nights spent Googling commercial leases instead of going out like someone in her 20s should. They didn't just take money. They took momentum. On a rainy Saturday, I met my friend Ellie at our usual cafe, one that always smelled like burnt sugar and chai. She had been the only one I told. "You should have frozen that account ages ago," she muttered, stirring her coffee. "You're too trusting." "I know," I said. "You need to make them pay. They don't even see it as wrong. That's what makes it worse." I sipped my tea. "I'm not going to scream at them. I'm just not going to be who they expect anymore." Ellie grinned. "That's terrifying." "I hope it is." A few days later, Candace texted me. "Candace, hey, can you pick up my veil from Bridal Loft tomorrow? I'm stuck with Chase's mom. No please. No thank you." Just a command wrapped in emojis. I didn't answer. Later that night, Mom called. "Leah, honey, Candace said you never replied about the veil." "I'm not doing errands for her." A beat of silence. "Well, it's just one thing. You live closer to the store." "I'm not her assistant, Mom." Her tone shifted like she was trying to smile through it. "Of course not, sweetie, but you know how stressed she is. I was stressed too when you took my savings." The silence returned, heavier this time. "We're going to pay you back," she said eventually. "You already paid for the flowers." "What?" Saw the second budget note. "You pulled from my account again." She exhaled like I was being unreasonable. "Leah, this is your sister's wedding. You'll get that money back, eventually. But right now, it's about family." "No, it's about enabling her." Then I hung up. The wedding date grew closer. I received the official invitation in the mail, an over-the-top envelope with embossed gold lettering and a pink satin ribbon. I left it sealed. Every weekend was filled with bridal showers, brunches, dress fittings. Every other day, someone sent me a message. "Are you coming to the rehearsal dinner? Can you help design the welcome board?" Each time, I answered less. I showed up less. And the more I pulled away, the more they noticed. But they still didn't believe I'd actually walk away. Not Leah, not the reliable one, not the glue. The final straw wasn't loud. It was a Friday night at the house, a family dinner Mom insisted I come to because she missed me. Candace showed up late, walked in talking on the phone, and waved at me with one hand while clutching a box of shoes with the other. Dad was there too, his usual quiet self, smiling at his plate and staying out of everything like he always did. When dessert came out, a store-bought cheesecake. Mom poured coffee and said sweetly, "Leah, we were talking, and Candace had an idea." Candace sat up straighter. "Yeah, I thought you could do a speech at the reception. You know, since you're not in the bridal party or anything, this would be like your moment." I blinked. "Not in the bridal party?" I asked quietly. Mom looked uncomfortable. "We had to keep it small. It's a 50-person bridal party." Candace rolled her eyes. "Okay, but the girls are all my close friends and college roommates. You know that." "But I'm your sister." Candace sipped her wine. "You're still welcome to come, and the speech would be nice." That's when I realized I wasn't just funding the wedding, I was being erased from it. That night, I sat on my fire escape watching the city lights blur under a misty drizzle, and I made the final decision. I wouldn't go. Not to the rehearsal, not to the wedding, not even to say goodbye. They had planned a wedding without my presence in mind. Now they'd get exactly what they wanted. The wedding countdown hit 14 days. By then, I had unfollowed Candace on Instagram. Not out of spite. I just couldn't keep looking at the endless stream of posed engagement shots, champagne toasts, and captions like, "Forever grateful, your blessed thugger sister goals." Every post felt like a performance meant for someone who wasn't me. The last time I'd seen Candace in person was that family dinner. She didn't notice. Or if she did, she pretended not to. But others started to. Ellie was the first to say it, plainly. "You not going is going to cause a war." I shrugged. "Let them declare it." "You're sure?" I nodded. "I'm not punishing them. I'm just removing myself." She looked at me for a long moment and said something that stuck. "You've always made yourself so small to keep their love. What happens when you finally take up space?" 5 days before the wedding, I got a call from Aunt Marianne. "Sweetheart," she began. "I just wanted to check in. I noticed your name wasn't on the hotel block or rehearsal list." "I'm not going," I said simply. "Oh." The line was quiet. "Well, I guess that explains why your mother's been pacing around like a cat in a thunderstorm." She never asked why. She doesn't want the answer. There was something like sympathy in her voice. "You know, your mom's always had blinders when it came to Candace. It's not fair. But that's her flaw, not yours." I swallowed. "I just don't want to be part of something that made me feel erased." "I understand," she said. "But be ready. They'll make you the villain for not playing your role." The group chat lit up 2 days later. "Candace, need everyone at venue by 3 p.m. Friday for run-through. Dress code is cute but not white. Lol." Then, a separate message just to me. "Candace, hey, are you riding with Mom and Dad Friday? Or meeting us there?" I didn't reply. An hour passed, then another. That night, Candace texted again. "Candace, Seriously, are you ghosting your own sister's wedding? What's going on? I typed a response. Deleted it. Typed again. And then finally sent, Leah. You never asked how I felt about you using my savings. You didn't even include me in your bridal party. I don't belong there. I'm choosing peace. I got no reply. Not that night. Not the next morning. But I noticed she read it. The night before the wedding, my phone rang. It was Mom. Her voice was already tinged with urgency. Leah, where are you? We're doing a final guest count and I'm not coming. What do you mean you're not coming? I meant what I said. You're being selfish, she snapped. I blinked. I gave you everything, she continued. We raised you, fed you, got you through college, and then you took my dream savings like it was your backup fund. It was a loan. No, Mom. A loan has terms. A loan has permission. You stole from me and called it love. She went quiet. You don't get to betray someone and then demand their attendance. She's your sister, Leah. And I was your daughter. But that didn't stop you. I ended the call. Then I turned off my phone. The morning of the wedding, I baked. Not because I was trying to soothe myself. Not even because I missed it. I did it because I needed to feel in control again. The act of kneading dough, shaping it, watching it rise, it reminded me that I could still create something of my own. That I could build, even from disappointment. By noon, the apartment smelled like cinnamon and browned butter. By 2 p.m., I had a fresh tray of cardamom buns cooling beside my laptop. By 3 p.m., I received a single text. Dad, you should have been here. Stared at it. No, we miss you. No, I'm sorry. Just shame disguised as disappointment. I didn't reply. By sunset, the messages stopped, and for the first time in years, I wasn't at their beck and call. I wasn't carrying a tray. I wasn't patching someone else's disaster. I wasn't hiding my feelings to protect someone else's moment. I was alone. But I wasn't lonely. I was free. I expected guilt. Maybe even a fight. What I didn't expect was the silence that came after. No apologies. No explanations. Just the quiet collapse of the role I used to play. And oddly, it was a relief. Monday morning came. I was sitting at my small kitchen table, reviewing lease listings for storefronts on the outskirts of town. Quiet little corners where bakeries could still breathe without corporate rent. When a knock hit the door. Not a text. Not a call. A knock. I opened it to find my father, still wearing the same suit from the wedding. His tie was stuffed into a jacket pocket, shirt wrinkled, eyes puffy in a way I hadn't seen since Grandma's funeral. Can I come in? He asked. I stepped aside. He didn't say anything at first, just looked around, quietly taking in my modest apartment, the one they'd always teased me about. Said it looked more like a dorm room than a real home. There were baking sheets stacked near the sink, a cooling rack with 3 untouched muffins, a worn stool with a tear in the leather. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Finally, he said, "Your sister cried through half the reception." I didn't respond. She told everyone you had food poisoning, but it didn't hold up. People started asking, "Where's Leah? Why isn't the maid of honor here? Why wasn't she in any photos?" I crossed my arms. And what did you say? I didn't say anything. Of course he didn't. He'd always been quiet. Not unkind, but spineless when it mattered. He played the middle like it was a game of survival. But neutrality is a luxury you lose when someone's bleeding beside you. You should have stood up for me, I said. I know. Silence again. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a check. $4,000. I stared at it. I know it doesn't fix it, he said, but it's what we owed, and I wanted you to have it from me. I didn't touch the paper. Dad, I said softly, do you even know how much I've given this family? He looked at me, really looked. I know you were the only one who didn't ask for anything, he said, and we took that as permission to take everything. After he left, I didn't cash the check. I pinned it to my fridge with a magnet. Not for the money, for the reminder. That week, the wedding photos went up online. Candace had tagged every friend, every cousin, every vendor, but not me. Her captions were a strange blend of bliss and bitterness. Not everyone will clap for you. That's okay. We still danced. The real ones showed up grateful for my day one girls. You know who you are. A part of me felt something twist. But then I looked around again. My quiet apartment, my untouched bakery plans, my own name. Still mine. Still intact. And I realized something. Candace had her moment, but I still had my future. 3 days later, I received an email from an old high school teacher, Mrs. Landon, who now ran a small community space in the arts district. Heard you're still baking. We're turning one of the storefronts into a shared commercial kitchen for local vendors. You'd be a perfect fit if you're still thinking about Soulrise. Let's talk. My hands trembled. Soulrise. The word felt like hope again. And this time, no one could take it from me. I met with Mrs. Landon on a crisp Wednesday afternoon. The community kitchen wasn't anything glamorous, just a modest, open layout space in a renovated brick building with sunlight pouring through tall warehouse windows. But to me, it felt like stepping into a room built from my own unspoken prayers. We're offering rotating prep blocks, she said, handing me a sheet. You'd get 4 full mornings a week. There's a waiting list, but I've bumped you to the front. I blinked. Why? I asked. Mrs. Landon smiled. Because 10 years ago you stayed late to help clean up after a school fundraiser when no one else did. You were the only kid who didn't need credit or praise. I've never forgotten that. The tears hit so fast, I had to turn my face away. No one had ever made space for me like that. Not without strings. Not without calling it a favor. This wasn't a favor. This was recognition. That night, I opened a new spreadsheet on my laptop and titled it Soulrise, Phase 1. Not maybe someday. Not after everyone else is taken care of. Just Soulrise mine. 2 days later, I got a message from Candace. Candace, can we talk? I stared at it. No emojis, no sarcasm. Just a sentence. I didn't answer. The next day, my doorbell rang. Candace. She stood on my stoop in oversized sunglasses and a white cardigan that looked like it cost more than my fridge. Her makeup was minimal. No camera-ready fake smile. Just her holding a cup of coffee like it might melt in her hands. Hey, she said. I leaned against the frame. You came. I figured if I texted again, you'd block me. I stayed quiet. Candace looked at her shoes. Can I come in? I stepped aside. She walked in like a stranger, gently, like my apartment might break under her weight. Her eyes flicked toward the cooling rack where my scones were lined like little golden mountains. "You're still baking," she said, almost surprised. "I never stopped." "I saw your name tagged on that shared kitchen page," she said. "You're starting it? Sol rice? Yes, I thought you'd let it go." Of course she did. "You thought wrong," I said. She let out a quiet breath and sat down. "You not coming to the wedding?" she began, then stopped. "I didn't think it would matter." I stared at her. "Why?" "Because you've always shown up, even when no one thanked you. Even when I was awful. There it was. A crack." She looked up at me. "You were the one I thought I didn't have to worry about. That's why I never asked. That's why I never included you. You never seemed to need it." "I didn't stop needing," I said. "I just stopped asking." Candace blinked fast, then looked away. "You're angry. I get it." "No, you don't." She opened her mouth, then closed it. "I thought you might show up anyway," she said after a long pause. "For Mom, for Dad, for the family." I did show up, every single time, until it broke me. So I chose something else this time. I chose myself. Silence. "I was jealous of you, you know," she said finally. "You always seemed so sure, so grounded." I actually laughed, dry and bitter. "I was grounded because I didn't have permission to fly." Candace lowered her head. "I can't undo it. But if you ever open your shop, I want to buy the first cake." I studied her face, looking for a catch. There wasn't one. Still, I didn't soften. "That spot's reserved," I said, "for someone who believed in me before I had a storefront." She winced, but she nodded. "I deserve that," she whispered. She stood up, walked to the door, and turned back only once. "I'm sorry, Leah." Then she left. The apology didn't undo the theft. It didn't refill the lost time. But it echoed. Not like a scream or a sob. Like a door creaking open. Just enough for light to peek through. The first morning inside the shared kitchen felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, thrilling and terrifying all at once. I arrived before the sun rose. The city was still sleeping, and the windows were still fogged with the breath of early spring. I carried my tote bag like it was filled with something sacred. Inside, my worn recipe notebook, my apron, and a cinnamon-stained tea towel my grandmother had embroidered before she passed. I tied my hair back, clicked the lights on, and stood for a moment in the middle of the kitchen space. Wide counters, chrome mixers, proofing drawers, and ovens that gleamed like possibility. This time, no one was behind me waiting to be served. No one was in front of me asking for anything. It was just me and the dough. By 9 a.m., the smell of cardamom, toasted nuts, and lemon sugar had filled the room. I packed the finished pastries into paper boxes with handwritten labels. Sol Reese. Warmth you can taste. I didn't need perfection. I needed presence. And I was finally fully present in my own life. By 11 a.m., Mrs. Landon stopped by. "These smell like a hug," she smiled, opening a box of pear almond danishes. "The other vendors are going to love you." I exhaled. "That's all I want." Paused. "You know, I've seen a lot of people walk through this kitchen. Some want success. Others want attention. But you came in with your sleeves rolled up. That's how I know you'll last." Her words wrapped around me tighter than any praise I'd ever gotten from my family, because this wasn't given out of obligation. It was earned. Later that afternoon, I set up a small table in the building's shared front atrium. It wasn't fancy, just a folding table, a simple cloth, and a display of pastries I had boxed with care. I didn't expect a crowd, but I didn't expect him either, my father, wearing a coat too heavy for the day, holding a small paper coffee cup. No smile, no forced lines, just quiet. I stiffened. "You came back?" I said. He nodded, looking around awkwardly. "Your aunt sent me a photo of your flyer." I waited. "I missed the ribbon cutting," he added softly. "If there even was one." "There wasn't," I said. "There was just work, which is fine. I don't need a ribbon." He looked at the pastries. Then he reached for his wallet. I stopped him. "You don't have to." "I want to." He handed me a $10 bill and picked out a cinnamon twist. Then something almost shy crept into his voice. "You know," he said, "the night of the wedding, when your chair sat empty, your mother pretended not to notice. But I saw her watching that spot all night." I looked at him. "I'm not saying this to guilt you," he said quickly. "Just, she misses you, in her own backwards way. I let that hang there, like smoke that wouldn't rise. I can't keep making myself small to earn their love," I said. "You shouldn't," he replied. "But maybe now that you've drawn the line, maybe they'll learn where it is." That night, I went home exhausted but light. My back hurt, my feet ached, but my soul felt clean. I took a long shower, ate the one broken muffin that didn't make it into a box, and climbed into bed with the scent of sugar still clinging to my sleeves. I didn't need applause. I didn't need their validation. But I wouldn't lie. It meant something that he came, even if it was just a start. The next morning, my phone buzzed. "Candace, are you at the kitchen today?" I stared at the screen. "Candace, I want to come by. I won't stay long. I just want to try what you made." I didn't respond right away, because some boundaries aren't walls. They're doors, ones that only I get to open. And maybe, just maybe, I was ready to crack one open. Just a little. Candace arrived at the kitchen just after noon. She wasn't wearing one of her usual curated outfits. No heels, no dramatic makeup. Just jeans, a soft cream sweater, and a ponytail that made her look younger. Maybe even like the version of herself before the competition, and attention hollowed her out. She stepped into the atrium, where I had my modest display of boxes stacked with morning leftovers. I was reorganizing labels when I noticed her. She hovered for a second before approaching, like someone visiting a grave. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I replied. Her eyes flicked over the pastries, lingering on the lemon honey scones. "You made all this?" I nodded. She picked up a cardamom roll and held it gently, almost reverently, like she didn't know how to handle something made by my hands anymore. "I didn't come to cause drama," she said. "I didn't think you did." Candace looked at me. "I've been thinking about what you said, about not being in your bridal party, about the money, about all of it." There was a rawness to her tone, one I hadn't heard in years. "I was jealous of you," she admitted. "I know that sounds backwards, but you've always known who you were, even when no one else noticed it. I kept trying to be the favorite. and I thought maybe if I had the perfect wedding, the perfect day, maybe I'd finally feel like I'd won. Won what? I asked softly. She paused. The attention, the love, the validation, I don't even know anymore. I exhaled. I never wanted to compete, I said. I know. That's what made it worse. You weren't playing, but you were still better. The silence settled. Heavier. Now. But cleaner, too. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out something I didn't expect. A folded, worn letter. What's that? Candace looked uncomfortable. Something Mom wrote. To you. I found it in her bedroom drawer last week while I was helping clean up after the wedding. It was addressed but never mailed. My stomach dropped. Candace handed it to me and stepped. Makwah, I haven't read it. I thought you should be the one to open it. Later that evening, when the kitchen had gone quiet and the last scone had been sold, I sat in the corner office space with a letter in my lap. My name was written in delicate cursive. Leah, just that. No sweetheart, no my daughter. Just me. I opened it. Leah, if you're reading this, it means I wasn't brave enough to say it out loud. I know you saw the withdrawals. I know what we did hurt you. It wasn't just about the money. I've spent years seeing your quiet strength as a reason to lean on you more, because I knew you could handle it. But I never stopped to think about what that cost you. You were my firstborn. You taught me how to be a mother, and I failed you more times than I can count. I didn't put you in Candace's bridal party because she asked me not to. She felt guilty and didn't know how to face you. I should have told her that was unacceptable. But I didn't. I let her control the day because I thought if she felt loved enough, she'd stop searching for it so desperately. You deserved better. I hope you still open that bakery. I hope you find a space where you never have to shrink again. And I hope someday, if you feel ready, we can sit across from each other with truth between us, not silence. Love always. Mom, I didn't cry. Not right away. I folded the letter and held it against my chest like something sacred. There it was. Not redemption. Not a fix, but truth. And sometimes, truth is the beginning of healing, not the end. The next morning, I reopened my Soulrise business plan. Not out of spite. Not out of a need to prove anything, but because I had finally let go of the weight of being invisible, and in its place was something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity. 6 months later, the name Soulrise hung on a clean white banner above the corner of a Saturday market pop-up booth. Gold script, drawn from my own handwriting. Simple, quiet, undeniable. The crowd wasn't huge, but they came. Old coworkers. Ellie, Aunt Marianne with her usual flair, and a phone in hand, documenting everything. Strangers drawn in by scent and the warmth of butter and citrus. Parents with curious toddlers. Teenagers looking for something different. I stood behind a wooden table stacked with lemon scones, rosemary focaccia, and a tray of my grandmother's almond-laced coffee cake. And for the first time, I saw people experience my dream on their tongues. I didn't need their approval, but they gave it anyway. I was in the middle of restocking a tray when I heard her voice. Leah. I looked up. Mom. She stood alone, holding a small white paper bag from one of the neighboring booths. Her hair was pinned neatly, but her eyes were tired, not from age, but from something else. She stepped closer. I saw the flyer, she said. quietly. I almost didn't come. I wiped my hands on a towel. But you did. I had to, she said, because every time someone asked me how Candace's wedding went, I couldn't answer without thinking about you. I waited. She pulled something from her coat pocket. Not money. Not another letter. A framed photo. It was me, age 12, in the kitchen at Grandma's house, hands covered in flour, smiling like the world had no idea how capable I already was. I kept this in the drawer, she said. I should have kept it somewhere I could see it every day. She set it down on the corner of the booth. I don't deserve to be part of this, but if you ever feel there's a spot for me, I'll be nearby. She turned to leave. Mom, I said, before she walked away. She paused. You can stay, but you stand in line like everyone else. Her eyes filled with tears, and she stepped into the back of the line. 2 hours later, as the rush settled, Candace showed up. She wore sunglasses, no fanfare, no hashtags trailing her behind. She didn't say anything, just held up 2 fingers and pointed at the last almond rolls. I handed her the bag. She slipped a 10 into the tip jar, which was already overflowing. Then, as she turned to leave, she looked over her shoulder. I told Chase the truth, she said softly. About what happened. About what we did. My heart caught. He said I should learn to love you better, she added. I think I will. Then she walked off, not with shame, with something closer to respect. The sun hung low by late afternoon, casting gold over everything, over the warm pastries, over the faces that had believed in me, and over the parts of myself I thought I'd buried just to be accepted. But they hadn't died. They'd just been waiting for me to stop waiting for them. That night, I went home to my apartment, the scent of flower still clinging to my hair. I stood in the mirror. No makeup, apron creased, hands tired, and I smiled. Not because I won, but because I walked away. Because I built something anyway. Because I finally understood. Love isn't real if it requires you to disappear to deserve it.